We provided funding to protect our watersheds and also to fight invasive species like the coqui frogs, fire ants, mongoose. And I'm sure it will continue because we've got to take care of our natural resources. I introduced the pesticide disclosure bill, which was passed, and it began the heavy discussion about pesticide awareness. The state needs to do a better job of monitoring and inspecting usage and to assure the public's health and safety. So we've approved more inspector positions. The Department of Health has started and will do more testing when more funds are allocated. I'm also excited to have legislation passed to allow the UH to study industrial hemp in Hawaii. It said that hemp is a plant that can clean the air, soil, and water from pesticides, as well as provide food, fiber, building materials, clothing, and fuel. One of the problems associated with the Kikiola Boat Harbor was the sand bypass. It's finally happening. People will see that it's happened. That should help replenish the sand on the Kikaha side of the boat harbor. The road to the harbor is now being fixed. Polihale Road fixed thanks to Landis Ignacio and his crew in DLNR. Koke Road's all good and more improvements coming. Other funded projects are the Menehune Ditch Pipe, Waimea Valley Rockfall Mitigation, the Koke Reforestation, Kekaha Irrigation, New DLNR West Bayshard, Hooray, and an important beach erosion study. Koke Council all set up, organized thanks to Chipper Wickman. Waimea High School issues addressed, and it goes on, but that's 2 minutes worth of this.
Thank you. Following the order that was selected beforehand, Ms. Franks, you'll be next. Which of your accomplishments have directly benefited the people of Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Well, actually, I'm going to keep my answer very short. There's a lot of things that we do and that my husband and I do, but some of the main things that I'm proud of is that we've established a food pantry and feeding program for the hungry and for the homeless. We provide blankets, clothes, and food for the people. We're able to go out and talk to them on a personal basis and see what their needs are. So, and also I volunteer in my daughter's school and several programs there, and do everything I can to assist parents and helping them help their kids in education, and also tutoring kids whenever they need it.
Thank you. Mr. Flores, which of your accomplishments have directly benefited the people of Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, as far as me, as I had served in Papuana for 10 years. After my kids was finished with Papuana, after 6 years, I stayed on for 4 years, serving, helping the kids. And Kalawai baseball, helped coach for 2 years. And for the last 20 years, I've been serving at Koloa Assembly of God Church. I've been a deacon for 16 years, serving the people, helping. Trying to be the best example out there as far as living my life, being true to the people, and just being good and honest with whoever I am with and whoever I speak with. And just being that example for children. I did almost, I would say 80% of the high schools I did, all elementary schools. I did all the flooring for them, dealing with kids there, talking with them, seeing their needs, seeing the needs in the schools, and just trying to be an example for our kids out there. I don't have the experience yet with as far as getting more involved with the community, but I will.
Thank you. Mr. Kahavai, which of your accomplishments have directly benefited the people of Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
In 1992, we remember Hurricane Iniki. That's when I arrived 3 months before the hurricane in June And immediately I was thrust because of disaster relief, providing help for those who had a lot of damage home, in almost every home on Kauai, if those of you who remember, was damaged. We provided help just to cover the roofs. And there were teams that were coming over from the different islands, Oahu, Hilo, Big Island, and Maui, and we housed them at the church that I was pastoring at the time in Kalaheo. And we provided hope when there seemed to be no hope. And it was a great time because we used to have potluck at the end of the day after going out and helping people, just coming together to have dinner and talk story and cry. I did a lot of that. I believe I was really blessed, in a sense, just to be there at the time. And it's not anything that I did personally to be able to serve the people of Kauai. But I happened to be there. And so I'm thankful to God, really, that I was able to be there to bring help and hope to the West Side especially. I thank the Lord for that.
Thank you. Our second mandatory question for the evening will start with Ms. Franks. Share the 2 top priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
Well, my slogan is keep Kauai Akamai. I feel like a lot of times that people's voices aren't really being heard. And I want to make sure that the people are fully informed about legislation that affects Kauai and Ni'ihau. I want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and doesn't feel like they're being ignored or feel like that they're not being kept up with what's going on. I also want to make sure that people's opinions are able to be voiced without them being silenced or people making fun of them or calling them names or anything. Everybody's opinion and everybody's voice is important. And if we don't have the opportunity to share our views, even if there are, not everybody's going to agree on everything. That's just the way it is. But we have to make sure that everybody has their voice heard, has their opinion heard. And that's if you look in our Declaration of Independence, it says that laws cannot be enacted without the consent of the governed. And that is us. That is the people. And if our opinions aren't heard, and if our legislators are not paying attention to what we're saying as the people of the state, then we cannot feel like we are being represented the way we're supposed to be represented. So I want to keep Kauai Akamai.
Thank you. Mr. Flores, same question. Share the top 2 priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
One of my things I would like to do is to inform the people what's going on in office. And with talking with a lot of the people, they don't feel like they're being informed. Talking with some people, they said, yeah, you get the internet, you can look it up, what's going on and all that, but not everybody look at the internet and all that. I'll hold a hunting tournament. My way of getting out to the people is flyers from Kekaha to Hanalei, using the internet, using the radio, using the TV. But one of the things I would like to accomplish in office is working on a bill to hold everybody accountable that holds one seat. Because accountability for their actions, a lot of times they get caught using money inappropriate, taking money and all that, and yet all they get pretty much is a slap on the hand and don't do it again. coming up with a bill to hold everybody who represent the people accountable for their actions. Because you can't change the system if the people who run in the office or doing the work for the people that is cheating the people. The consequences has to be harsh, more harsh for them than us. And I would like to work on that.
Thank you. Mr. Kahavai, share the top 2 priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
I'm a great-grandfather today. They call me Tutu Man. And I'm concerned about the education of my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and the future of education in Hawaii. I don't see good things necessarily happening. And I think there's some freedoms being taken away as it concerns education. Some curriculum is being forced upon our children. For me, I value education, but good basic education that will help our children to grow and become better and encourage them to go on to higher education. The other part is jobs, work. They can't, sorry, I'm an old preacher, let her go stuff, you know. To me, it's connected. Jobs are so important for us, and especially on the West Side. I think we can all agree about that. And that's why I'm really thankful to the West Side business community for sponsoring this forum, because we need to pay attention to that. It's the economy, it's jobs, it's our education, especially for the future of our children. And I'm concerned about my grandkids. They're smart. I want to keep them going in that direction. And the more opportunities they will have to grow, to learn, to know, the better they will be and more successful they will be if we provide that for them.
Thank you. Ms. Morikawa, share the top 2 priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I guess being the incumbent gives me the advantage on this, but my first priority would be the state hospitals. We need to make sure that KVMH and Mahilona are sufficiently funded and efficiently run. The recent threat of closing the Kale Hill Clinic has started the discussion. We need our state hospitals and clinics because they're the safety net, especially in rural areas. Kauai was fortunate to get emergency appropriations of almost $10 million to bail them out of the last fiscal year. However, they need another $10 million this budget. It's going to be really crucial that they come to the legislature next year to justify their positions, and that funding really is going to be needed. Second priority is for the schools. I really want to get a covered play court for Waimea Middle School and possibly other elementary schools, because our children shouldn't be exposed to the ultraviolet rays. The students at the middle school wrote letters to me asking for help, and I agree that they should have at least the same as the 2 other middle schools on Kauai. As some of you know, community members and the Parks and Recreation Department were planning a Waimea sports complex, which would also have included an outdoor gym, but those plans are way into the future yet, although I hope we can succeed one day, at least in my lifetime. So it's important that we get the schools project sooner. Air conditioning is a must, but first schools need to get PV systems installed. And I've heard that Kauai schools were supposed to be the first to get it, but that was 3 years ago, so perhaps I should follow up on that. We will continue to catch up on school repairs, but the constant stream of funding needs to be approved. Therefore, it is important for me to maintain my position on the Finance Committee or a leadership role. Thank you.
Thank you. The next questions are unknown to the candidates, so they'll be hearing this for the first time. We'll start with Mr. Flores. Do you support the military's presence at PMRF Barking Sands? If yes, what would you do to ensure that it is a priority for Kauai? If no, please explain why. You have 2 minutes.
I support the military for being at Barking Sands. But there's so much that I do not know, but I do hear from the people, especially from the Hawaiian homes. What are the Hawaiian people getting back from they being there? And how much they're getting? But military, I support them. I was in the military, and you know, we need the military to keep us safe. But we need to know what they're doing there and what they're doing for the people here on the island, because I believe they're supposed to be paying some kind of a lease, and how it's supporting the Hawaii people and the Hawaiian people.
Thank you. Mr. Kahawai, same question. Do you support the military's presence at PMRF Barking Sands? If yes, what would you do to ensure that it is a priority for Kauai? If no, explain why. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I do. They provide jobs. They're a very large employer when it comes to Kauai. I think I would get together with those people in Congress, because they can do a better job of ensuring that the military does stay, or PMRF is a viable place to continue that. I will, admit that I think Vince's concern is right. Hawaiians need to be, the Hawaiian community needs to be informed. And maybe that's not happening as what goes on there. I think it's okay. But I think those in Congress have a better handle on getting that done than I would be. I would, if I was to get in, I would certainly speak to that.
Thank you. Ms. Morikawa, same question. Do you support the military's presence at PMRF Barking Sands? If yes, what would you do to ensure that it is a priority for Kauai? If no, please explain why. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I certainly support their presence here on the west side, especially because they are the last defense system base that we have to Asia. They're very important with their testing. They provide our our older, our young college students with internships. And there's technology is where the jobs are, engineering. They are a good neighbor. They reach out to the community where from my perspective anyway, they really do reach out and talk to the community. They want to be a good neighbor. There's a lot of things happening out there, and yes, they're a big employer, and we really can't do without them, and I would help any way I could to make sure that they could stay here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Frank, same question. Do you support the military's presence at PMRF Barking Sands? If yes, what would you do to ensure it is a priority for Kauai? If no, please explain why. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I very much support the military being here. Not only are they a good neighbor, like Ms. Morikawa said, and they provide lots. They provide jobs. It's not just military jobs; it's civilian jobs. There are lots of civilians that work there as well. But they're also developing programs that will help our schools. NASA is looking at developing some programs there. Different things that can increase opportunities for our kids to go more into science fields, or be able to get more information to help our kids be able to dream about what they can do. And I think that encouraging our kids to do something beyond themselves is something that we should do all the time. So I think that I know that having their presence there is essential to our island, not just economically, but also in encouraging our kids in their education.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Kahawai. What is your opinion regarding proposed marijuana distribution centers in Hawaii? You have 2 minutes.
I'm against it. Now, I understand that the marijuana uses for health purposes, but, you know, I grew up in Nakuli. In fact, my neighborhood was known as the Ice Palace. Marijuana was the drug of choice, and that was the only choice in those days. Now there's so many other things. I believe that it will just open up so many doors that we won't be able to deal with. We're having a hard time right now. And to just legalize distribution of marijuana, he's really asking for trouble. We're going to have to double our police department.
Thank you. Ms. Morikawa, same question. What is your opinion regarding proposed marijuana distribution centers in Hawaii? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. As we all know, medical marijuana is legal. We made it legal because, in my view, it does help a lot of terminal people, a lot of people who can't be healed with the illnesses they have. We took it out of public safety and put it in the Department of Health because we feel that it is a medical issue. The problem is the distribution and the raising of the marijuana. We're at that place in time where we don't know how to get the patients their medicine, and that would be marijuana. So the talk is about dispensary systems. And the only way we can do it, don't get me wrong, I don't support recreational marijuana. The only way we can do distribution as safe as possible is through a dispensary system. Now, my take on the dispensary system, and I hope that this could happen, is to do it through the state hospitals because the state hospitals need funding. And if it is possible, if the federal laws allow it to happen on state property, imagine what it would be like to be able to cultivate it, to process it, to make it available to patients who really need it. Now, these are really sick people, and the state hospital could provide that secure, good distribution for what I think is really a good medicine that has a lot of potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Franks, what is your opinion regarding proposed marijuana distribution centers in Hawaii? You have 2 minutes.
I oppose it because I know that it won't just be for medical marijuana use. Other people would be able to get it. Recreational marijuana is already such a problem. And it makes our kids think that it's okay to do this. And it is not. When they legalized marijuana in Colorado the very first day, there were over 30 deaths from marijuana use. A lot of times you don't hear those kinds of things unless you do the research. So opening the door for something like that to happen is not right. I mean, do you want to see 30 of your kids drive their car into a telephone pole because they're high? I don't want to see something like that happen. So I think that legalizing or the distribution centers would be a detriment to our society because it just opens up more doors.
Thank you. Mr. Flores, what is your opinion regarding the proposed marijuana distribution centers in Hawaii? You have 2 minutes.
I totally against it for one reason, is that right now, it's so easy for anybody to get one's card to smoke marijuana. This one person told me, all you have to have is one broken bone in your body, go to the doctor, and they give you the card. Goes back to passing one bill to hold people accountable. Right now, there's a lot of people in office that ain't being accountable to the position that they hold. Marijuana, like how Pastor Butch said, is only opening up one door for more things to come. We need to stay true to our beliefs. We need to stay true to what is right for the people. Medical, I know it helps people to, medical reasons, they smoke marijuana. How are we going to do them to provide the people who really need them is beyond my knowledge right now, but that is not the way. People need the medication for it. How are we going to regulate them? But I believe with working with the people's ideas, we can come up with a solution instead of leaving them up to the state.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Ms. Morikawa. Would you be in support of an initiative to revive the super ferry and have it provide service to Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Long ago, I was in support of the super ferry because for me personally, I felt driving my car onto that ferry, going to Oahu, cheaper. I have a car, I don't have to rent it. It would be a great advantage. But they should have done it the right way. They should have gone through the whole process with the EIS before they had it done. So the state ended up wasting a lot of money because of that process. Maui Island is in dire need of some type of system. They do have the boat ferry, but you know, you gotta realize that they have 3 islands connected, Molokai, Lanai, and Maui. They should have access to a ferry system like that. And so if it does come back, I would say do it the right way. And if you want to start it first, start it from Maui, and then we'll see how it works for the rest of the state. Thank you.
Ms. Franks, would you be in support of an initiative to revive the super ferry and have it provide service to Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I think we should revisit that issue. I think that, like Ms. Morikawa said, go through the proper channels, do what needs to be done. But I think that it will provide more local jobs. I think it will increase tourism because it costs a lot to get on a plane. And people love to come here to Kauai, but a lot of them can't afford to fly over, honestly. And so I think it would open more doors for the visitor industry, for people to come over. If they can bring their car and be able to come over, they could just come over for the day. They can visit the local businesses. Hey, I like to go eat at that restaurant. You know, I want to go to Gaylord's and eat. Okay, well, I'm going to get on. I can just go over, maybe, you know, for a special occasion or whatever. But I think it's going to open doors for the visitor industry and provide jobs. And I think that we would be more connected as a state if we could do that. If we would have a ferry system that would go throughout the entire state. We lived on Molokai and had to go back and forth to Maui on the Lahaina Princess and the Maui Princess. So I understand what that's like, but it was easier and much cheaper, but we still couldn't take our car on. You know, it was just us and our stuff. But it made the trip so much easier, and even we took the ferry to Lanai a lot as well when we lived on Maui. So I understand how important that is. It provided ways for people from Molokai and Lanai to get to Maui to work. So there could even be ways where if people wanted to work here on Kauai, or maybe people living on Kauai couldn't find a job in their field, they needed to go to Oahu. I think it would provide more in the areas of jobs, not just for jobs on the ferry, but open up more doors for people to be able to get jobs that fit their needs.
Thank you. And I apologize, I skipped over Mr. Kahawai. I'll go back to you. Would you be in support of an initiative to revive the super ferry and have it provide service to Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Yes. I mean, the economic benefits from having the super ferry, we all know what that would be. Tourism, jobs. So I think it makes sense. It's a good thing. I agree that maybe we didn't do our homework the first time. And we got a lot of people against it. And I think a lot of it because they did not understand or know or have knowledge of all the impact it was going to make. And so, you know, yeah, I want to support an initiative. I think that's a right thing to do for people. We need to improve our economy. We know that. And so I think this is as good a way as having a lottery. I would be against a lottery.
Thank you. Mr. Flores, would you be in support of an initiative to revive the super ferry and have it provide service to Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
You know, listening to everybody speak about them, you know, how it will provide jobs, how it would give another choice to choose from, airlines, the boat. And I agree, maybe should test it out on Maui first, see how they going to control the drug movement on a vehicle transporting on a boat, how they going to hold the security of that. But for me, if it works out for Maui, and what kind of system they're going to get for the drugs, because they will use it. They use them in our mails, they use them everywhere, but how it's going to affect our island, Kauai. So I am for it, but with the, I guess, finding out more information how they're going to run them. Is it going to be like the airport, security? You know, as the whole pot, whoever will be running that super ferry, will they be accountable for if a drug transaction coming to Kauai, how they going to disciplinary that actions? Not only the people who transporting the drugs, but who missed transport, the oversight of the drugs coming here.
Thank you. We'll move on and have one of the questions submitted by our audience. We'll start with Mr. Kahavai. Where do you stand with regard to GMO industries, especially in Kauai? What would you do about this if about this issue if you are elected?
What would I do about the GMO industry?
Yes.
Do I need to?
Where do you stand with regard to the GMO industry, especially in Kauai? What would you do about the issue if you were elected?
Well, I think they provide a service. I was talking to one of the guys that work for the seed company, and their goal is to feed the world. I see that as a very high goal. Now, of course, what they're doing to accomplish that, I think that's a noble cause. Now, I have to say that just because we can do things better, we make a seed and modify it to be resistant to disease or resistant to weather. We always have a responsibility, and I think the seed companies understand that. For me, they've been given the ability, the knowledge of how to do that. And if they're able to feed the world, I say, let's give them go ahead. By the way, they have the freedom to do that. Now, people who are doing that, the seed companies, they have a responsibility, of course, to make sure things are safe in our community, that our community is safe. So, and I understand the issues are concerning pesticides, but you know, I'm going to say this and be honest. I use pesticides. I use herbicide. I get tired of pulling my weeds. So I spare them. I make sure I don't spare my neighbor's one. See, and that's the issue for me. We are neighbors. We are a community here. We need to take care of each other. So if something happens with my brother,
Ms.
I stop.
Morikawa, thank you. Ms. Morikawa, where do you stand with regard to GMO industries, especially in Kauai? What would you do about this issue if elected? You have 2 minutes.
Well, it's already on the west side, and it's on the west side because it thrives. We have a lot of land. Yes, they do provide jobs for people. They do not take care of the land, but they do have ground cover on our land. I am at the position where, like I said earlier, pesticide regulation enforcement disclosure. I think that's where I can go at this point, which I have started. If we are being poisoned by the pesticide use, we need to know. But the State Department of Health and the State Department of Ag need to step up and make sure they're out there to check and see if this is what is happening. And I think they're starting to do that. And I think as long as we have a sense of we're okay, then I think it's okay. We can thrive together. That is the balance that I need to find. And I drove out to Polihale and I saw some of the lands out there. They're growing sweet potatoes now. Sweet potatoes follow the corn, and the sweet potato enhances the soil. I also saw a field of something that looked like pineapples, but my husband said it might be ginger. There's a lot of ag happening out there in relation to the seed corn companies. There's a lot of buffer zones. I saw a lot of ground-covered areas, and for that, I'm proud of them because they are taking care of the land conservation part, runoff, and I think that is what they need to do to be good neighbors, and that's my role as a state representative, is to make sure that I get funds to the proper departments to get out there and make sure they ensure our safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ranks, where do you stand with regard to GMO industries, especially in Kauai? And what would you do about this issue if elected? You have 2 minutes.
Well, I felt like I didn't know enough about the subject because I would hear hearsay from people. Somebody saying, oh, I heard this, or I heard that. And a lot of times people are just saying something that they've heard, not something that they know is true. So I decided that I would contact one of the seed companies and talk to the people there, find out what was going on. And my daughter actually worked at one as a temp for a while. So I wanted to know everything there was to know. So I got with them and I picked apart their brain and I got everything and was able to research. I did my own research because I wanted to know. I like to see the facts. I don't want to take somebody else's word for something because they may not know the facts. I want to know the facts. So I got to know the facts. I got to know the facts about a lot of different things. And I know one of the issues was labeling. There actually have something in place now that if somebody wants to put out a product that says organic or GMO free or something like that, they have the ability to do that. And labeling is not a bad thing, but I know that it will affect local jobs. It will affect food cost. It will affect the food items that can be brought into the state. It will affect our family farms, and like I said again, it will definitely affect people's jobs. I was looking into the pesticide issue, and I found out what is allowed by the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, the FDA, all the things that we have in place to protect our food sources. And what they're using is, some of it is the same thing as the stuff organic farmers use. It's organic pesticide. Now that's not to say, I mean, any pesticide can cause issues, but most of it is not any different than what we have at home.
Thank you. Mr. Flores, where do you stand with regard to GMO industries, especially in Kauai? What would you do about this issue if elected? You have 2 minutes.
This is one tough issue, easy issue, but I look at what they're doing. They provide jobs. They're providing food for Feed the World. But we got to look at our aina. Anybody that I go and I ask how much you guys are spraying, and they cannot give me one answer, to me, for me, they're hiding something. That's the only thing I can say. If they cannot give me paperwork, facts, how much they're spending, spraying, then for me, somebody hiding something. As the same way, for if our state is regulating them, how come they don't let the people know this is a test we did, this is what we did, and this is the results, everything is legal, everything is good for the people? How come we, the people, not getting notified? I'm against GMO, but I also is for the big landowners. What we get as the people to offer them to not choose these corn guys to come and farm our land. But I just recently found out that they pay $900 an acre. I lost my land through big companies because I was paying $50 an acre for my horses. You know, we're losing our perspective of what's going on here on our aina.
Thank you. This will be our last question until your closing statements. Since we're here on the west side of Kauai, please share with the audience examples of ways that you've been involved with or supported the west side community events and organizations. You have 2 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Flores again.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, that's a long one. Since we are on the west side of Kauai, please share with the audience examples of ways you have been involved with or supported west side community events and organizations. You have 2 minutes.
Well, to be honest, for me on the west side, the only thing I have done is be myself, be honest with the people, share the aloha spirit. On the west side, for me, I hunt. I enjoy the Waimea Canyon. I go up there 2-3 days, enjoy the aina, hunt for food for my table. The only thing I can say for me is that now I'm running for office, I will look into it, what the community needs. I know for me, Waimea High School, when I was doing the flooring there, one friend had come to me and said, "Hey Vince, we get 6 yards of extra cement. We can go to your house right now, pour your driveway." But I was looking at the ag area for the Waimea High School, get red dirt, all the kids just standing on the wall. I went to the office, I got lumber, and we poured Waimea High School one nice slab for the ag. Not much that I can say, but I am truly for the people.
Thank you. Mr. Kahavai, since we are here on the west side of Kauai, please share with the audience examples of ways that you've been involved with or supported west side community events and organizations. You have 2 minutes.
Most of my support has come in sports, football games, and basketball games, volleyball games, baseball games. I try to attend as many as I can, even though my kids are old now. They don't even go there. But I'm a Big Blue fan. And I try to attend as many as possible. My wife has a driving school. And she's always involved in teaching high schoolers especially to drive. So in many ways, I've been involved with her in that. I get to meet all the kids, and we've gone to she's done it for 12 years now. And that's part of what we've been giving to the community. We want to take care of young people, make sure they're safe drivers, because they can be unsafe too. And by the way, we even, my wife even teaches adults. And adults, she tells me are the worst to teach, because they're set in their ways. But that's the service that she's doing for the community. And, you know, I support her in that. I take care of the book, make sure she pay the bill, that kind of thing. But that's the way we've been kind of supporting our community here on the west side. We also go to the barn dance, yeah. Hang out and eat. It's a good place for eat. You plenty of food over there. But long line, I don't like standing in line.
Thank you. Ms. Morikawa, since we are here on the west side of Kauai, please share with the audience examples of ways that you have been involved with or supported west side community events and organizations. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you for that question. Ken and I married a Waimea boy. We have 4 sons. Throughout their whole childhood and high school lives, we've been involved in so many sporting events. The boys like to play every sport they could possibly play, so we were involved in all those fundraisers. As far as the Waimea Town celebration, we were involved with the baseball, Little League Baseball, and we would be making flying saucers every year. As far as the Huiolaka, Kokei, we got involved with cleaning the trails, actually getting into the trail and learning how to cut those blackberries and how to take those banana coca vines down. Those are events that really make you feel good because you know you've done something good for the visitors and for the hunters or what have you. Maluhia Road, I consider that part of the west side. The cleanup we just did this past weekend, I actually get in there with my sickle, with my rake, and I'm hurting for it today. But those are the things that I try to get involved with. And I know as I get older, I'm not as useful, but I'm still gonna try to do those things as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Franks, since we're here on the west side of Kauai, please share with the audience examples of ways you've been involved with or supported west side community events and organizations. You have 2 minutes.
Oh my goodness, let's see. Attending sporting events for some of our youth and kids that are involved in things. Attending recitals and school programs for all the different schools. Attending the Waimea Town celebration, the 4th of July on the 3rd of July out at PMRF, and also things that we've done to benefit the community. We hold big Easter egg hunts every year, and different things to reach out in the community, provide things for the community. We've actually started our own private school to provide another alternative for kids for education, and trying to think, there's so many things that have happened. We are involved with cleaning up Adopt a Highway, and have been faithfully doing that in Ele and Hanapepe. And we're going to be opening up to other areas on the island as well, being involved with that. And I think there's just so many things to be involved with, and it has really been a joy to be able to be involved in the community and to serve in the west side and provide opportunities for people to get involved, to really make it a west side Ohana.
Thank you. And now we'll conclude with your closing statements. You'll each have 2 minutes, and we'll start with Mr. Kahavai.
one of the reasons I'm running as a representative is because I want to be a voice for you, the people. I understand, though, that I cannot help everybody, but I will try to serve all of you best I can. One thing I will promise, I will listen to you. The other thing is, I'm concerned about the future of our children and the direction they go. I'm not looking for perfection, but I think it's important we pay attention to direction. I believe I can provide good direction, porno direction, when it comes to serving on the state legislature. I have served this community over 20 years as a pastor. I know one thing, and even as a pastor, I learned early on that you cannot pastor everybody because they won't let you. I understand that, but I will do my best. And as God gives me strength in my remaining years, and by the way, I'm in what I call the bonus years. When you pass 70, you're in the bonus years. So I know there's quite a few of you are out there. And I want to serve out those bonus years and give it my best shot. That's all I want to do. And I believe I can do that. With your support, I know we can.
Thank you. Ms. Morikawa, your closing statement. You have 2 minutes.
My whole adult life has been devoted to public service. My passion is about how I can best work toward a safe and healthy life for everyone. I also know that what a struggle it is for most people to afford living on this beautiful island. So as lawmakers, we need to carefully balance expenses and revenues and always be mindful of waste and inefficiencies. Our very young children need the opportunity to start their education early. We must also provide good preventative health care and healthy lifestyle education because healthy children can better succeed in school. We will need to change our environmental behavior to take care of our islands, and I believe that should be taught to all our children at a very young age. As our baby boomers begin their senior years, we need to provide more care and services for them. Housing issues will be an effort at both the county and the state level, and most importantly, we will continue to protect our natural resources and preserve our cultural history and lifestyles. We have accomplished so much these past few years. The state is more fiscally sound and transparent. We are replenishing the Hurricane Relief Fund and beginning to address the state's huge unfunded liabilities in the retirement system and the health fund. Kauai has received its proper share of funding for many vital infrastructure improvements and grants for important projects. Grants for West Side include the Hawaii International Center, Huiolaka, and our own Waimea Business Association for the maintenance of Russian Fort. Our schools are finally receiving the much-needed repairs and maintenance to long overdue problems. We have restored some funding back to our high school athletic programs and increased the amount for the student-weighted formula, which will bring more funds for public schools. There will be many more issues and concerns to deal with, but that's a challenge I look forward to. Please give me another opportunity to provide you representation you can depend on. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you. Ms. Franks, your closing statement. You have 2 minutes.
I know that serving in ministry for all these years has made me a more compassionate person, listening to and helping people's needs on a daily basis. And government officials are supposed to be public servants, supposed to be the ultimate in public servants. And I believe that what I have done as far as in ministry can translate not just from the 3 churches that I serve here on Kauai, but for the entire island, of being able to see people's needs personally met. And I think that it is absolutely essential that the people that are serving listen to the people that they represent, and that they make decisions that are what's best for the people that they represent. I stand for traditional family values. I'm not a politician. I'm a mom running for office. And I intend to defend our rights, to instill our values in our children, to have control over what they're taught in school, and to protect them. I also want to keep our state motto and what our ancestors, what the people who came before us established when they set up our Constitution. The preamble, we the people of Hawaii, grateful for divine guidance and mindful of our Hawaiian heritage and uniqueness as an island state, dedicate our efforts to fulfill the philosophy decreed by the Hawaii state motto, Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono. We reserve the right to control our destiny, to nurture the integrity of our people and culture, and to preserve the quality of life that we desire. We've got to see that stay in place. And I desire to see that more than anything else. That's why I'm asking, humbly asking for your support. We don't need people, politicians, who just make choices for Kauai. We need servants who will make the right choices for Kauai. Keep Kauai akamai. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Flores, your closing statement, you have 2 minutes.
I'm just one dad, a husband, running for office, trying to keep everything in my household straight. But I see my purpose, I believe, is to disturb the people who is sleeping, who not coming out to vote, because their vote is the one that changes everything for our state and our country. I never bring up, for me, for our kids in school, whatever the state can provide for the school, but trying to get the schools to come up with programs to kind of be more like self-efficient, that you can create within the school income coming in through all, I believe, wood class, metal, arts, and ag, to create money for those classes to keep it foundational strong. And as far as I like one program in the schools for the juniors and seniors, where somehow we can teach them why they need to register to vote when they get out of high school. Because there's a small number of our children not voting. There's a small number of our adults not voting. But that's my purpose.
Thank you. That concludes our forum for the State House of Representatives, District 16. Thank you to all of the candidates. Mr. Thomas Kahawai, Dee Morikawa, Victoria Franks, and Mr. Vince Flores. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll get started with the mayoral forum. If you're going to go outside or go to the restroom, we'll be starting in 5 minutes. We'll get started in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We'll get started in 1 minute. Take your seats, please. We'll get started with our mayoral forum. Before we do, I'd just like to make an announcement and thank everybody for submitting questions. If we're not able to get to your question tonight, fear not. We'll summarize all of your questions for the candidates and to review later on in a post-forum session and a wrap-up. So if we don't get to your questions, fear not, you have an opportunity after the forums, and we will summarize those. So thank you very much for participating. Okay, let's move on to our mayoral forum. We will use the same format as we did with the State House of Representatives, where we'll have 2 minutes for an introduction, 2 minutes for questions, and 2 minutes for closing. Our candidates are here on the podium now, and we'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. Again, if you can hold applause and silence your phones, we'll be able to move through the questions a little quicker. And we'll start with Mr. Carvalho, if you'd like to present your opening statement.
Aloha mai kako, aloha.
Aloha.
Of course, thank you all for being here this evening. Can all of us gather this evening to hear all of us up here before you. My name is Bernard P. Carvalho Jr., currently the mayor of the County of Kauai and seeking re-election. Very happy to be up here to share our vision and what I've been doing for the past 5.5 years. Born and raised on Kauai. Went and graduated from Kapa'a High School, went to University of Hawaii, had a chance to move to Miami a little while and play football, and came home, got married. My wife is Regina Carvalho, right there, from Oceanside, California. We have three children, or young adults, should I say. My Bronson lives in Portland, my other son in New Jersey, and my daughter here is a school teacher at Koloa School. We have a little granddaughter and one more coming. So I got papa duties too, overall. But just wanted to share that and the importance of family. My dad's sitting there, Bernard Sr., and our family members. Happy to be with all you this evening. This is a great opportunity for all of us to talk story. My leadership style is very open. I have a strength to bring people together. When I first got elected in 2010, actually, our second term, we focused on, working on our economy, planning wisely for our future, looking at sustainable opportunities, of course, communities, caring for our communities, our families, and of course, customer service. Those were the 5 areas. And so for tonight, I just wanted to thank everybody for being here and look forward to some healthy discussion and know that I have 30 years of experience in county government, 17 years as Director of Parks and Recreation in that field, 6 years as the department head, and now 6 years coming up as mayor. So almost 30 years. So I come from within. I understand the dynamics and the internal operations, and I look forward to discussing that this evening. Aloha.
And I'm sorry that I did not formally introduce our first candidate, Mr. Bernard P. Carvalho, our current mayor. Our next candidate with the 2-minute opening statement is Mr. Dustin Barca.
Hello, everybody. Mahalo for coming out. It's a pleasure to be here and for you guys to hear our visions for the future of our island. My name is Dustin Barca. I'm 32 years old. I'm a father of 3. I'm not too good at talking about myself, so I'll just talk about why I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor because I see major issues being unanswered on our island. From chemicals in our drinking water, importing 90% of our food, drug problems, and the big coral reef die-off going on right now, to our everyday issues like affordable housing, roads, and waste management. The corruption has made our officials work for the corporations and not us, the hardworking people of Kauai, the tax-paying people of Kauai. I have the open mind and the backbone to make the right decisions for the future of Kauai. I thank you guys. Mahalo.
Thank you. Our next candidate is C. Hendricks Hapa Lake. You have 2 minutes.
Aloha. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be here. I see you guys all looking at me like I'm a joke, so I will go ahead and forego the jokes and just tell you who I am. I am an anomaly for even being here, and I'm honored to be with Miss Debs. I'm honored to be with Dustin, and I'm honored to be with the current mayor. At 17 years old, your own Danny Inouye gave me a test and said, you need to join the Army. And I said, heck no. And he said he'd clear my juvie record if I joined the Army. So 3 months later, at the age of 17 years old, I got a top secret military intelligence post. I'm a 98 Golf cryptologist. I learned German, Polish, and Russian. So I become the first soldier ever in the history of the military to go from military intelligence, which is a top secret security post, at the age of 17. At the age of 19, I became the first Special Forces Green Beret. Now, there's a law against that. The law says you can't go from military intelligence to becoming a Special Forces Green Beret. It's called the critical MOS law. Daniel Inouye broke that law for me so that I could do that. And after that, I was recruited by National Security Threat Assessments, risk evaluations, and I got to do the most amazing surveillance or research on people like Nelson Mandela. And when you do surveillance on a man like Nelson Mandela, you get to learn politics. You get to understand politics from a level of literally genius. Because if anybody knows about what Nelson Mandela has done, we can bring those technologies, those government political science technologies here. Now, when I got out of the military, I had to go get a degree. So I was asked to get a degree. So I went to Florida International University, graduated top of my class, magna cum laude, with a double major, political science and philosophy. And I minored in criminal justice. I've owned 9 businesses. All of them failed, and all of them taught me one thing, that failure hurts, hurt instructs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Deborah Lynn, Ms. Debs De Silva Carvero. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. My name is Deborah Lynn, Ms. Debs De Silva Carvero, and I live in Hanapepe. I'm 54 years old. I'm a mother of 6 and a grandma to 12. So you know I'm gonna be really out there in the community. I've been a participant with Waimea football. My goal is to make sure that we ensure safety nets for our kupunas and our keikis, and making sure that there's programs out there to provide them with food when they don't have any, and housing, deal with the homeless. So that's my agenda.
Thank you. We'll start with the mandatory questions. And again, the mandatory questions have been provided to the candidates beforehand. We have 2 of them. And our first one, we'll start with Mr. Barca. Which of your accomplishments have directly benefited the people of Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Well, you know, I'm not a politician, so I haven't been able to accomplish too much. But I think my ability to bring people together, you know, I've brought thousands of people together on this island like no one else. I've brought 4,000 to 6,000 people to walk in Lehui to fight for the same reason, for the future of our island, for the health of our kids. I have the ability to lead. I have the ability to make the right decisions. And I have the ability to say no when things sound wrong. So I haven't done much in the community here, but I look to do a lot in the future. But I look to do it with everybody together, because it just doesn't take me going out there and saving Kauai or Mr. Carvalho or any of us. It takes all of us working together and making things happen. So I think my ability to listen to the community and what the needs are in the future is a way that I'm going to give back to this island. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, which of your accomplishments have directly benefited the people of Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Sweet. Well, 6 months ago I wrote a 144-page tome. It's entitled The Reverse Flow Dynamics of World Bank-Induced Power Transition Model and Its Effects on Kauai. Now what that means is, which is probably self-explanatory for most people, but if Kauai would look at what the Hapa Hendricks hallucination is calling an inevitable skyline of sovereignty, and I'm talking about a newly defined, all-inclusive cultural, spiritual, as well as national sovereignty. We can insource all of our resources that go to Washington, D.C., and to corrupt that corruption in Washington, D.C., if we insource all of that, I can pay every single, and I'm talking about 70,000 employees, 70,000 people that live here on Kauai. Because I have a friend, he has a textile fabric in Mexico. He doesn't pay his people anything, but he has 70,000 employees. So I thought about how, just in one single way, how I could make each person $6,180.33 a month for life. Because the Seminole Nation does that for its own people. And if I have of the philosophy, if it's being done somewhere successfully in the world, I can bring it here to Kauai. Now, I happened to be with Jim Allen, who was the president of the Seminole Hard Rock Casino the day he incurred $3 billion in debt. He had bought, accidentally of course, he had bought all of the Hard Rocks in the world, and he incurred $3 billion in debt. I go, how are you going to deal with that $3 billion in debt? And he goes, I'm going to give it to my people. And I was like, brah, you got to explain that to me. Because if he can do that, I can do that. So he said, yeah, our people $6,000 a month through the business of the Hard Rock Casino. So this is a public government with private sector generating revenue streams. Now, I'm a Special Forces Green Beret. I got to have not one goal, but I got to have a secondary goal and a tertiary goal to get to that primary objective. And I got all three of them, and the sovereignty is one. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really bad at this, sorry. So overlook the idiocy of me and just listen to my
Okay, Ms. De Silva Carvero, which of your accomplishments have directly benefited the people of Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
My accomplishments that I have done in Kauai was being a motivational speaker for Friends for Youth. These youths were abused, products of incest. I mean, it was really heartbreaking. And I motivated them to move forward in life. Being that I am a product of rape, and I've dealt with incest and, you know, in family areas. So I had to teach them how they could overcome this and become a way better person than the person that had attacked them. And by doing this, you need to learn how to put all your anger and all these past pains on a shelf and say, it's not going to hold me down, it's going to move me forward. So that is one of the aspects that I am for the kids. Another one is that I've been a caregiver to the elderly as long as I can remember. I've helped some elderly recover from addictions such as methadone for like 20 plus years. And to help them to live a better life, to get on an exercise program and keep pushing them to move forward. We have to protect our elderly is one thing, because some of these care centers, they're not doing it. They just let them sit there, don't do anything, and then they end up dying. The elderly needs us as much as we need them. They have a lot of information stored in their minds that they can share with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, which of your accomplishments have directly benefited the people of Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, we've had many accomplishments in our administration. We've been out and about. I've been in every community every year with our entire cabinet to listen and hear and to respond back to the people, of course, of our beautiful community. In transportation, we extended our bus routes. We created parking rides throughout our island. We work closely with our transportation team, of course, and looking at ways to provide better service to the people. We work closely with Kauai Community College, and I had a concern. I wanted to make sure we encourage ridership from the college level, because we had day students and night students. A lot of our night students were moms and dads too. So we did a pilot program for 1 year. Worked closely with Helen Cox, the chancellor, to encourage ridership. It was free bus pass for 1 year, and we were able to work that out. And after 1 year, now the fee is already included within your registration. So now you have a free bus pass included in your registration fee. Safe routes to school, our first lighted crosswalk in Koloa. We really did a big push to support our Complete Streets resolution, which encouraged walkable, bikeable, and connected types of communities. And this particular piece would encourage our young students to walk and bike safely to school, and I continue to work on that. Our Safe Routes to School is moving in that direction, and we're working with other schools now to encourage walking and biking to school and making sure it's safe for our keiki. We had our Sunshine Markets are moving. We have over $1 million in sales for the 2013. We spent $40 million in CIP projects that now in the next 3 months, another $22 million is coming out to support our bridges and our roads. And of course, many of the parks projects. We completed the renovation of Lidgate Park, where everybody goes. You have new pavilions, stainless steel fixtures, additional cleaning for that area. I mean, there's many things happening, folks, and I'm excited to share about that.
Thank you. Our second mandatory question will start with Mr. Lake. Share the top 2 priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
First thing is, I believe we can transition the GMO companies, all 7,000 plus employees, into one of 3 other things, because I always have 3 plans to do something. I believe the GMOs have to move on. They are poisoning our waterways. They literally poisoned our rainbows, a very aggressive corporate shades of government-sponsored red, white, and blue, and I don't think that's acceptable. I did a water documentary with the American Film Group about 2 months ago. Well, we got a guy to drink 1 glass of river water on January 2nd for 30 days straight to January 31st. Now, we tested all the river waters first, tested this river water ever, and so we had the guy pick the cleanest river water to drink 30 days worth of river water from. Now, it was really hard to find some idiot to do this. So we couldn't finish the documentary if I didn't do it. So I had to drink from January 2nd to January 31st, 1 glass of river water. Now, we went to a doctor, my doctor Cam Ewan. I've studied with a man named Cam Ewan. My Sifu is Shaolin Temple, 35th generation. They made the TV show Kung Fu after him. This guy is super cool, man. Anyway, I learned a lot from this guy. So I asked him, I showed him the water test and said, what would happen if I drank this water for 30 days? And he looked and he went, psh, death. And I was like, no way, brah. So I drank 30 glasses of water from the river. And guess what happened to me? Anybody want to know? I did not die, but I lost 87 pounds from February 1st to March 17th, went on the most advanced protein peptide by Brzezinski, this guy, if you watch, I helped with a documentary called Cancer is Serious Business, and it shows, does anybody know what a user fee act is here? Thank you. I will stop talking.
Okay, Ms. Carviero, share the top 2 priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
Excuse me. My top priority? My top priority would be our elderly and our children and getting the GMO corporations off of our island. For one thing, for that amount of acreage that they have, they could give it to our farmers, our people, so they can be independent in making an income to survive, since we do not have a living wage here. So that is my priority.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, share the top 2 priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
We have many priorities, but one of the main priorities, of course, is how we're going to manage our waste for our island. How are we going to close one landfill here in Kekaha and relocate to another location on the island? We went through that whole process. It was a very complex process to look for another location. So we have that right now. We're looking forward to a resource recovery park where we can consolidate all of our waste stream in one area. We're looking for a MRF too. I'm committed to looking at a MRF, which is a materials sorting facility. We also want to make sure that we continue our automated pickup, including it in all. Automated pickup is out and about, as you all know, and we're going to complete that this term to complete the whole island. And of course, our curbside recycling, we did that as a pilot. I just want to share with you in this area of managing our waste, very important. And number 2 is an adolescent drug healing center. I refuse to let our children be shipped away off island to either the neighbor islands or the mainland. Healing is with your family. And so we need to gather as a community. We've done the groundwork. We have a location. We went into community. We talked story. I've listened. We've gone through many discussions and many hours of discussion to seek a location so we can build this adolescent drug healing center. Very important for boys and girls 13 to 18 years of age. We're ready to manage that. We have some resources. I made the connections with the Department of Health. Our Life Choices coordinator is working closely with many members of our community to ask what is the right model? How are we going to move forward in addressing this particular area? So Adolescent Drug Treatment Center, of course, the last one, every bus shelter we have a bus, every bus stop we have a bus shelter, period. And we'll talk about that one later. We're going to finish that, and that's going to happen. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Barca, share the top 2 priorities you want to accomplish should you be voted into office. You have 2 minutes.
Well, I think before we commit to anything, I think we need to look at our budget. You know, we're going into debt for the first time, as long as I can look back. We spent $50 million in the last 4 years, I think, close to. And, you know, before we start promising a bunch of things happening and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, I think we need to look into our money and what money we have to make things happen. I think by simplifying our goals on the island for a little while and putting money away, we'll get back on our feet as a business of county. I think from the day-to-day, going door to door and talking to people, I think the biggest issues are affordable housing for, you know, your everyday person. People are struggling. They're getting booted back. You know, they're getting booted out of their home from Hawaii to the mainland because that's the only place they can afford to live. You know, we're losing our local people, and, you know, I think it's, you know, sad that we don't have more opportunity here. You know, when I go door to door, it's like some of the biggest problems is the smallest things. You know, you think is the smallest thing because maybe you have one house that, like, you know, that you've had for a long time and you're comfortable, but a lot of people are uncomfortable on this island. I think we need to look to those people and see, look at us. They might be small problems for some, but those are the biggest problems for your everyday person. So I think that's one of the biggest things we can do.
Thank you. Our first question that we have that is unknown to the candidates, we'll start with Ms. Caviero. Have you ever ridden the Kauai bus? And if elected, would you advocate for expansion of bus routes and services? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I rode the Kauai bus. I used to ride it a lot. There weren't no bus shelters or anything at that time, but now it's starting to erect. I would want to have more routes, like coming up into the subdivisions where the school buses go. They should have buses go up there also. So we can save our island with all these cars. So if the people have the adequate transportation to get to and from work, they won't have to use their own vehicles to get there. So we could eliminate some of that vehicles on the road. Another thing is that we need to make sure that it's affordable for them to ride the bus. Because if it's not, they're not going to ride it. So those are the things that we need to look forward concerning our transportation.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, have you ever ridden the Kauai bus? And if elected, would you advocate for the expansion of bus routes and services?
Yes, I have ridden the Kauai bus and very proud of our bus services and our bus team headed by Celia Mahikoa. Our big responsibility is to try our best because we're so transportation-wise, we need to rely on the bus service, getting our people out of their cars and in the bus system. As I said earlier, we created parking rides. We've created opportunities at the college level. We're also looking at opportunities in a shuttle service that could help the North Shore, can help the West Side and South Shore in getting people to park in one area and get down to the North Shore via shuttle service. That's separate from the Kauai bus, but the same discussion area. The bus services, like I said, we have an incentive program now within our county that our county employees, if they choose to, can have a tax credit as well, just to encourage people to get on the bus. So we have that particular program. We've opened up opportunities for people to get bus passes at Menehune Food Mart. So we're trying to reach that out to encourage bus ridership. We've tried our very best to continue purchasing new buses. I know we had a fleet of 20, and we're looking at maybe getting out and doing some transportation hubs out in the community so bus drivers can actually end their route here. We are already moving in extended routes, like I said earlier, and weekends as well, extended weekend routes. I also want to get into feeder routes to take people up into community from the main line, because many of our kupuna and our paratransit program, of course, is in place, but we need to include more feeder routes up in and up into Hanapepe, up into Waimea, and then bring people down safely to the main line area. And also Tropic Care was here, folks, and they were here on our island. We worked it out. We had transportation for our people of Kauai to get medical services to this wonderful opportunity to Tropic Care.
Thank you. Mr. Barca, have you ever ridden the Kauai bus? And if elected, would you advocate for the expansion of bus routes and services? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I've ridden the Kauai bus, but when I rode it, I think it was called the Iniki Express. But I think, the bus system is an awesome program. I think these guys have done a good job there, and I think if we picked up the amount of buses and started working with our tourist board and how we can lessen the amount of tourist cars and start working our bus system into our island. I think, our roads are one of the biggest problems we're dealing with. That's another day-to-day problem, that's a big issue. like I like to use the metaphor. Our island is like a elevator, right? It's got a max capacity, and we're way past max capacity right now. I think we're shipping in containers and containers of tourist cars, and it's not beneficial to your everyday tax-paying people of Kauai. You know, so I think if we can work in more buses and better transportation systems in that way, and take away from your everyday drivers on the road, I think would be a smart direction to go for sustainable roadways for our island. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, have you ever ridden the Kauai bus? And if elected, would you advocate for the expansion of bus routes and services? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I rode the bus here today, right now. And I got to ride the bus back to Kapa'a. I hope I get out of here in time. You look at any community in the world, and one that that you could be proud of. And I hate when people say I'm proud of where I'm from. Don't ever be proud of where you're from. Be proud of what you can do with where you're from. Now, you see the best societies in the world. They have the most amazing public transportation. And I was originally going to have my mayoral campaign. I think Trujillo talked me out of this. My original mayoral campaign platform was going to be Mach 2 magneto levitron trains for everybody, and not just those with Rhyolite Factor 38 top secret security clearances and higher. But, it's really hard sometimes to shift some technologies that are super secret in the military-industrial complex that my mind got to play with, and then to bring them over here into the civilian sector. So instead of having a Mach 2 magneto levitron train, the public bus system is awesome. Mahalo.
Thank you. We'll start our next question with Mr. Carvalho. Do you think the county employees in general are fairly compensated for the work that they do? You have 2 minutes.
Our county workforce work really hard. There's many different levels within county government. Of course, from the cabinet level all the way down to the various departments. And I think our employees have collective bargaining opportunities to work through some of that levels of pay that they deserve, I feel. A lot of them come in at the entry level, and as mayor, I look forward to advocating for our men and women who work within our county government to assure that they are getting paid or fall under the right pay range for the work that they do. We are currently looking at how we're going to continue to manage our personnel. We've created a human resource department, never ever had before. It was personnel. So now we have a human resource department that is working closely with our departments to look at ways to manage our individual departments. Where should we pay attention for the work that they do? Who's at what level? What positions should be placed under what area of our organization to assure that the output to the people is truly worth it, because the people are watching. So from our custodians who do an awesome job, to our parks and caretakers to awesome job, to our directors, and I look forward to really working closely with our human resource department to look at our management level and help them, not eliminate them, help them to understand what their role are and what resources they have should they need to make the decisions for the individual departments. We have a lot of issues in many, like any other business. This is a business, folks. It's not one issue mayor here. We have a major issues in the county of Kauai, but we also have solutions. And so we're seeking the best way through this new human resource department, training, orientation, making sure we provide resources for the people that we serve. Should we have any type of discomfort within the operations, we have the resources. We have an EAP, an employee program that our employees can go to should they need to. I look forward to more of that.
Thank you. Mr. Barca, do you think the county employees in general are fairly compensated for the work that they do? You have 2 minutes.
I think the county's being run very well up to a certain point. I think a lot of people are doing their jobs from your everyday person in county. You know, I'm on fisherman, so I look at it like on fishing net, yeah. Every person's one puka, one of your eyes. But we got some holes in our net. We need to find those holes, we need to patch them up, and that's how we're going to move forward as a business. That's how we're going to be successful as a business. I think there's just a few people in there that might be getting raises this year, I'm not sure, but I think we need to look and patch the holes. I think everybody's doing an awesome job other than that, but there's just a few big holes that need to be patched. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, do you think that county employees in general are fairly compensated for the work that they do? You have 2 minutes.
No, I think they should be paid way more and work way less. I think our entire society is based on an abundance or a scarcity-based economy, and we need to base it on an abundance one. If other countries or cities or incorporated areas are paying their county employees much more than what they pay them here, and I just think people work too hard, man. I think people work too hard, and I have ways to where people don't need to work so hard, and we can just pay them money. And I think that is the greatest society in the world, man. So, yeah, I want to pay the county more and have them work less.
Thank you. Ms. Carvero, do you think that county employees in general are fairly compensated for the work that they do? You have 2 minutes.
I believe that the county jobs, they get paid too much money. Some of them don't even work. When I pass the roads and I see the county workers out there on the side, weed whacking or cutting the grass, whatever, there's 5 of them. One is holding the rake, the other one is doing a job, and the rest is just standing there talking stories. So, you know, I don't know. But I feel that when you work in a county office, you're working for our state, you're not working for yourself, you're working for the people. So I believe that you should always have an open door policy, regardless of how busy you are, so that the people can get a hold of you, because there were many times that I try to get a hold of certain offices and I get no response. So that needs to change.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question, we'll start with Mr. Barca. What do you think about an adolescent drug treatment center here on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Well, if anybody's seen my website or my paperwork, they know that's one of my top 4 things. You know, being in the communities on a day-to-day basis, being at all the birthday parties, being in, you know, just in towns every day, you know, on the streets, I see the problems. I've lost so many friends to drug addiction, died or just never came back to earth. But, you know, the only solution we really have on this island is prison, and it doesn't work. It works for some, but it doesn't work for most. I see a lot of our drug addicts just come right back out and just like a slap on the wrist, go back to stealing or, you know, smoking or whatever they're doing. I think it's one of our biggest priorities on this island is to create a healing center, a drug rehabilitation, not only for our adolescents, but just for our general people of Kauai. I think we cannot just think about our kids, even though it's all about the kids, you know what I mean? It's all about the future. But I think when they see their elders getting proper healing and proper treatment and coming out better people, I think that's a, you know, leading by example. You know, that's what elders are for. So it's up to our elders to heal, for our kids to be steered in a better direction. I think that's our kuleana, to be clean and to be guiding our kids in the right direction. And, you know, that's why I'm here. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, what do you think about an adolescent drug treatment center here on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
It's a fantastic idea. I'd like to be part of creating that. I did a national security threat assessment risk evaluation on some some people down in Gabon, which is just south of Cameroon. I was in Morocco for 10 days, and I had to do a job to break into a chemical company called Herx Fabrique right outside of Andiab in Casablanca. They gave me 10 days to do that. I did it in 1 hour. So I had 9 days off. So they go, "You want to do another job?" I go, "Yeah, where at?" They threw me down to Gabon, which is in West Africa. Morocco's in West Africa. Really great place. I couldn't find Rick's Cafe American for anybody that knows the movie Casablanca. Anyway, so I go down to Gabon, and I'm cruising with these guys called the Bewiti tribesmen, right outside of Libreville in Gabon. And these guys got this magic elixir. It's called iboga. It's from the root of humanity. That's what they call the tree, right? So they grind up this root, and they give it to people, and it's a slight hallucinogenic. Now, this is such a powerful thing to reset the pineal gland and reset the central nervous system that the methadone clinic saw it and went, "Oh, there's no way that could be legal here in America." It would totally put the methadone clinics out of business. And this is the most effective cure for drug addiction in the world. So, being an American filmmaker and knowing that I was going to run for mayor 3 years ago, I had actually went in and talked to him in his office a couple of times, or once, and then George Costa, the Office of Economic Development. Anyway, to make a long story boring, there's a Dr. Martin Polenko in Mexico City that has like a watered down, diluted version of this, and the guy makes about, I did research on him, he does about $30 million a year out of this Mexico City. So this other cat named Eric Taub starts one in Costa Rica. Now, I was in Costa Rica on September 21st, 2002, and I had a near-death experience. Woke up in a hospital. My heart had stopped. And that totally changed my life, man. It made me not be a villain anymore, because for 33 years before that, I was pretty much a villain, I would say. So when I understood things like this, like the iboga, and I tried it, and I realized how powerful it was, they should bring that here and use that.
Thank you.
I don't know how to speak in sound bites. I'm sorry.
Ms. Carviero, what do you think about an adolescent drug treatment center here on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
I think it's a wonderful idea. We have a lot of teens and adolescents that is addicted to drugs. And some of them is just not marijuana. They're into the hard stuff. So I think that would be a good idea. We also need a crisis center. Because, you know, it's hard for the person who's going to be treated to be separated from their family because we doesn't have one, and they have to go off onto the other islands. So I'm for that.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, what do you think about an adolescent treatment center on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Well, I did say earlier that we need it, period. But let me just say this in addition to that. I had the opportunity, I call opportunity, to visit our prison here. I was the first mayor to actually go into the prison and visit with the inmates. And I went in there with the attitude, with the understanding. I went there not to judge anybody. I went there to talk story. And my job there was to ask them, each and every one of them, when you're ready, whenever you're ready to come out of this, wherever you're at right now, I'm not here to judge you. My job is to find you, put you into a quick program, find you a job if you can, so you can get back with your families. This adolescent drug treatment center, healing center, is just one part of the whole picture, folks. I'm telling you, we talk about cats, we talk about birds. I'm going there right now with all of that, which is okay. I'm not neglecting that. But this is for our kids, for our youth. So let's look at the menu of things we got to do. Prevention, integration, enforcement, treatment. Those are the 4 things that make up our Life Choices program. Very important to support that. We've assembled a Blue Ribbon Committee to look at. I'm not just throwing it out there for people to just say, oh, let's go build a center. No way. We're basing on facts. We're basing on a Blue Ribbon panel made up of our enforcement team, made up from the courts. We have people from the police. We have an architect on hand. We got to move forward on this project. I'm telling you, we have the land. We're ready to do the right of entry. I got to work with our county council to help me, help us. Take the credit, everybody, because the credit goes to the keiki, to the kids and to the families. I'm telling you, this adolescent drug healing center has to happen. It may not be the answer to everything, but it's the beginning. So we need to look at that, folks. And I'm really passionate about that because I went there. to the prison. I know most of those guys in there because they come from Kauai, of course, and the families are connected. Am I going overboard? So anyway, thank you so much for that. I mean, I need your help.
Mahalo. Mr. Lake, our mayor is often asked to go to the legislature to push for funding and tax dollars for critical county budgets. What would your priorities be as mayor for state legislative support?
One thing about this administration that I see that he doesn't see is I think Mayor Bernie has fallen victim to almost like economic hitman protocol of the CIA. Now, the economic hitman protocol of the CIA takes over local governments by using bribes. Big business known as GMOs take over local governments using something called a user fee act. Now, if you're looking at the Food and Drug Administration, the regulatory body of these GMOs, these 5 GMOs here, and you got to look at the GMOs as not the Goliath. They're the 5 stones in David's hand. You got to thank the GMOs. They're blessings to us right now because they have poisoned our water unfettered, like nobody's been checking on them until the American Filmmaker Group started testing the waters here, man. This is bananas what's been going on here, how we defiled our sacred waters. Kauai should hold its standard a little bit higher than anybody else. Anyway, so what I'm seeing as user fee acts, which a user fee act is Monsanto et al. Pays 40% of the Food and Drug Administration's paycheck. And not just one of their paychecks, but the whole administration. So to say that 40% ownership of the Food and Drug Administration comes from the 5 GMOs here, that would be an accurate statement. So what I see as those user fee acts and bribes, those have to be identified. And once you identify that kind of bias, you can't be, you're a completely compromised system. And when you see that compromised system from the federal government down, then you start looking at what's the only way to get rid of the GMOs. Now, I do have 3 ways to get rid of the GMOs, but the most effective one is the most ambitious, and that's that, you know, hallucination of a skyline of a free and united country of Kauai, F-U-C-K gov. Okay, let me take that one back. A free and united country of Kauai would help that.
Ms. Caviero, our mayor is often asked to go to legislature to push for funding for tax dollars critical to the county's budget. What would your priorities be as mayor for the state legislative support? You have 2 minutes.
That all our kids in school eat free. Because if they're learning, they should be eating free. If they're hungry and starving, they cannot learn or be taught because they're constantly thinking about the pain that they're feeling in their stomach. Another thing is that we would buy out all these empty houses that is just sitting all over the land without anything being done with it, that we could give back to the people that needs homes.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, our mayor is often asked to go to legislature to push for funding and tax dollars critical to the county's budget. What would your priorities be as mayor for state legislative support? You have 2 minutes.
I believe all of our counties deserve our TAT, a transit accommodations tax. That goes to help maintain our facilities. Our visitors come to Kauai to the wonderful experience for beautiful islands, so they deserve, and our people deserve, our residents deserve. So the TAT is a big, big part, and we'll continue to fight for that. I'm going to say fight, because it's been a challenge. And so we need to look at that. We lost 7.5 million in fiscal year 12. We lost 10.4 in fiscal year 13, and this year 9.4. So we got to make that up somewhere. So I just wanted to say that part. Also, transportation is a big part for me. We got to continue to look at how we're going to move our people on Kauai safely, how we're going to upgrade our roadways. We currently have that stretch right across over Wailua with a contraflow all the way to Kapa'a. Well, how are we addressing it after that? On this side of our island. How are we going to manage it? Work closely with the state, hold them accountable, hold us accountable to how we're going to manage our transportation, and finally housing. Housing for seniors, housing for our veterans, housing for our new people, housing for our family members who want to move home, our keiki, my sons want to come home. So we got to work closely. I think this is a statewide issue obviously, to secure more housing opportunities, workforce housing, senior housing. And we have some projects in the hopper already as I speak, but we need more. And I want to advocate for that with the legislature. You have a great team in place. It's all about relationships. It's being solid at your county level. It's understanding your needs and your wants. It's taking the people's voice with you when you travel to Oahu and walk the halls one step at a time. It's being clear on what you need. It's laying out the facts, not this pie in the sky stuff. Transportation, housing, TAT. If we can at least look at that, there's much more, but you got to go in there solid, and that's what I would do.
Thank you. Mr. Barca, our mayor is often asked to go to the legislature to push for funding and tax dollars critical to the county's budget. What would your priorities be as mayor for the state legislative support? You have 2 minutes.
I'm happy you asked me that question. I think one thing people should know on this island is the chemical corporations and our large landowners on the island are getting tax subsidies on their ag land. They're being charged for food production, agriculture, but they're doing all experimental seed production. We're not eating anything that these companies are doing or growing. And the tax-paying people of Kauai are feeling the wrath of that. I think it's time to start another place. We need to patch the holes, you know. We got to have the backbone to go after these entities that are on our island who are billion-dollar entities and get our money back and patch these holes and get out of debt. I think we can start there. Thank you.
Thank you. I will start with Ms. Caviero. What would be your solution to balancing the county's budget without sacrificing public services? You have 2 minutes.
Well, for one thing, I would have to fire our accountant, that's for sure. I have a degree in accounting, and I think I can manage pretty much of anything. Doing a budget, raising 6 kids, yeah, you need to know how to run the numbers. So I believe that with the education that I had and with seeing how everything has gone up in Kauai and how it's affecting everyone, we would have to really work hard at trying to balancing out the budget. And for one thing, I would start cutting areas that is not needed.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, what would be your solution to balancing our county's budget without sacrificing public services? You have 2 minutes.
The biggest and most important responsibility as mayor to assure that we can balance our budget. It's about needs and wants. It's about making sure that we surround yourself with good, smart people. Our accountants, we developed a budget analyst team. We have our director of finance, our deputy director of finance, a budget team now in place, an analyst team to get the foundation solid. Our budget, $175 million for this year. Real property tax revenue, $107 million. Our CIP budget, $32 million. And our budget included a $1 million reduction. And we did that by payroll, travel, reduction in payroll and travel and overtime and vehicle replacement, and we dollar-funded positions, just to give you a glimpse of trying to manage that. I did talk about the TAT. So the 2 main streams of revenue is your TAT and your real property tax. So the TTA goes down. You got to figure out how you're going to manage this. I didn't want to raise property tax. I looked at fees. We looked at other forms of raising taxes, but not all at once. We looked at a progressive approach. Collective bargaining increases, folks. Shoal Point firefighters, 2008 to 2013. They got that, which is okay. HGA and UPW never got any raises from 2013 up until now. We created 3 new departments. Parks and Recreation, we created those departments that the people voted for. Remember that, so this is the story. $56 million. Boards and Commissions, $4.8 million. County Auditor, $4.1 million. Great operational additions to the county, but be mindful, when you vote on additional departments, it takes money and costs and personnel and equipment and supplies. So I want you to understand the story here, that there were creation of three new departments. In addition to that, in supporting a transportation agency, our bus expansion that I talked about, in addition, 2.5 million to our budget, which is okay because why? It's going to serve the people. But at the same time, we got to figure out how we're going to manage that and make it work for all of us.
Thank you. Mr. Barca, what would be your solution to balancing the county's budget without sacrificing public services? You have 2 minutes.
Well, I think it goes into looking at who's not doing their job. You know, as mayor, you don't do everything, you know. You put together the right team to do the right job. And just like any business, you know, when you're in this position where you're losing money, you need to look into your business and you know, patch those holes that are needed. You need to make sure everybody's doing their job, make sure everybody's being efficient, make sure everybody's making money, saving money, whatever their job is, you know. And I think right now we've just got a little loose there, you know, at running the business of county. And it just takes looking into those positions and everybody working together as a team. I think when everybody's on the same page and our goals are the same, then everybody will be motivated to reach those goals.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, what would be your solution to balancing the county's budget without sacrificing public services? You have 2 minutes.
Create, God, an infinite amount of new revenue streams for the people of Kauai. Just one off the top of my head. There's a multi-million-dollar high school that makes 2 movies a year. It's called G-Star. The template is so phenomenal. It makes a couple of $1 million a year that goes directly to the students and how it runs the school. Now, as far as budget is concerned, I like budgets because numbers are easy. Numbers are the only thing I like because they don't lie. So they're really, to say that you can just get a great team together and look at the economics of buy low, sell high, collect early, pay late economics of a local government. I mean, it's not that difficult. You're not talking about a huge business. This is 70,000 people. This is Kauai. I mean, this is manageable. This is not a big, you know, city. I think the budget here would be pretty easy to effectively control. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to some questions submitted by our audience. We'll start with Mr. Barca. Besides tourism, is there any other industry that the county should strive to develop as part of our economic base? You have 2 minutes.
Well, you know, I think living in one of the most self-sustainable places on earth, when we're importing 90% of our food, I think food production is something our island will thrive off, could thrive off, by not only feeding our own people, our own restaurants, but exporting goods from our island. And I think that's a hole we need to fill here on Kauai. You know, Hawaii used to be the #1 food export in the world. And now we're probably one of the #1 imports in the world. But yet you can grow almost any single plant here from Kokee to Hanalei. You know, I think we've gone so far away from what we think we are as independent. Americans, we're independent. Woo! We're some of the most dependent people on water. We depend on food. We depend on water. And we depend on electricity. So any ways we can be self-sufficient, any 3 of those ways, is a positive step forward for us.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, besides tourism, is there another industry that the county should strive to develop as part of its economic base? You have 2 minutes.
I guess I've been saying that all along, is the sovereignty issue creates a lot of, in-sources a lot of resources that go off island. That's the first thing that one can do. The second one I had mentioned is the Iboga clinics that would work hand in hand with his juvenile addiction clinics. Now the thing about drugs, there are forces, unseen forces, that control that. And the only thing that we can do to effectively control or literally win the war on drugs is, one, that has to be family-based. You can't have the government dealing with the war on drugs. And two, something called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission needs to be founded here on Kauai to understand the forces that are actually with the government, keep the balance or equilibrium of drugs on this island. You can go on any given night and somebody can go buy drugs on this island. And who believes that that's true? Nobody believes that that's true on any given night that somebody can buy drugs on this island. Thank you. Oh my gosh. So that's something we need to address immediately, I think, because I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Caviero, besides tourism, is there another industry that the county should strive to develop as part of its economic base? You have 2 minutes.
I believe that we should build a big amusement park. Because there'll be a lot of things to do at this amusement park, especially our sceneries are the most beautiful from all the islands. I think that would be one revenue.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, besides tourism, is there another industry that the county should strive to develop as part of its economic base?
I want to say that in addition to tourism, number one, we need to know who we are as an island, as a people of Hawaii, as Kauai. We need to bring back and stand strong on our aloha spirit. And we need to identify and document who we are as an island. We began that process by naming each moku on our island. Halalea, Ko'olau, Puna, Kona, Napali, and Ni'ihau. These are the land divisions from before. We need to understand each land division and then make decisions based upon that from before, number one, and moving forward. Number two, we need to understand how important agriculture is overall. We have an opportunity on Kauai to have a menu of opportunities in organic farming, conventional farming, commercial farming, community gardens, ag parks, seed companies, ranching, dairy opportunities. We need to look at each and every one of those. We're not eliminating anything. We're trying to figure out what do we have here, how are we going to prolong it, how are we going to sustain it, how are we going to ask the right questions, how are we going to enforcement, how are we going to take up the legal issues, how are we going to make sure that our people are working and have the opportunity like we had in the past. We have an awesome opportunity, people, for agriculture on our island. It's all of us just talking it through, keeping out of litigation, keep away from the courts, hold each entity and county entity responsible for their duty. I'm not responsible for everything as mayor, please. But we need to hold the people accountable who should be. Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, DLNR, DHHL, our neighboring entities, our housing issues, our Hawaiian issues, all of it, folks. We have a chance to make Hawaii the best place in the world.
Thank you. Starting our next question submitted by our audience with Ms. Caviero. Give 3 examples of what you are willing to do to help businesses of West Kauai. You have 2 minutes.
Can you repeat that again?
Sure. Give 3 examples of what you are willing to do to help the businesses of West Kauai.
For one thing, I would make sure that West Kauai would get what they deserve. They're still waiting for funds that's supposed to be allocated to them that they never got, so that they could build whatever they wanted down on this site to bring in some revenue. That I would do. Secondly, like I said, we should build a big amusement park. That would be bringing in a lot of income. And third, make sure that everybody here on the west side get what they deserve. Some of them are still waiting for their homes from the Hawaiian homelands, and I mean, it's really ridiculous. I would be out here helping them since I've built homes already.
Thank you. Mr. Carvalho, give 3 examples of what you're willing to do to help the businesses of West Kauai.
West Kauai has an opportunity to be a model. When you pass Waimea Bridge, you're entering into a community that is so connected, that still has that charm and character, and has that ambiance of being in that community setting. Just right out here, we have an opportunity with our Waimea Plantation Cottages. We can turn this wonderful community, invite people, small groups, to come in and get educated, to have little forums, to utilize this facility, utilize our walking ability in this area, turn this into a more walkable, inviting. We have the tech center right here, we have the school right here. We can invite small kinds of symposiums and gatherings and opportunities to really bring Waimea town, the west side right here, to that level. We have agriculture, of course, at the forefront. We have the base out here. We have opportunities to bring and connect with our robotics program and internships and all this stuff, but still keeping the charm and the character, not changing anything. Adding here, retrofitting here, renovating here, keeping that nice, quaint feeling, but still be up to par with technology and science and internships and business opportunities as we move to make this side of our island, the west side, thriving. I mean, you got Polihali out here, you got the harbor over here, you got a beautiful stretch of beach out here. I mean, and Kekaha School, and I mean, there's so many opportunities that we have right here. And I think if we transform and continue to work together with a business community, we're not telling you, we're asking, what do you think? How you want to see this community? I believe with the support from all of us that we can transform this into some place that can be very, very special for all.
Thank you. Mr. Barca, give 3 examples of what you are willing to do to help the businesses of West Kauai.
Well, before I go and say I'm going to do anything for West Kauai, I think it would take me sitting down with the community and seeing what they want for West Kauai. I cannot just come and change Waimea, Kekaha area and just say, oh, we're going to make them the tourist epicenter of the world or something, you know, because I know you guys wouldn't like that. It's hard for us down Hanalei side, but, you know, I've been working diligently with entities from outside, different farming solutions. For me, I'd like to create a farming solution here on the west side where the families who've been working in these companies for generations have shares in a farming company where they are owners, where they're making the money on the top. I think we've been taken advantage of on this island by large entities that make billions and billions of dollars off what they do on our island, while our people work for minimum wage, barely making it by, while their bosses are driving Range Rovers and living in big houses, doing nothing but talking on the phone. How can we make farming work for our people and our island? I think it's by creating a different style of farming, producing some kind of food or food oils. I'm working on that right now. I cannot give too much details, but we're working on business plans, how this can happen. And that's to benefit the people of Kauai, the hard-working, farm-working people of the west side of Kauai. This is the solutions we're coming up with. We know what the problems are, but we need the solutions. So I cannot come in and say I'm going to do this and that for the west side, but I do have options I'm working on. And if the people are open to it, then that's what I have on the table. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, give 3 examples of what you are willing to do to help businesses of West Kauai.
First thing to do to help businesses of West Kauai is teach everybody to become eye spies for the INA. Go out and test your waters. Go out and test your soils. And go out and test your air. Then watch the movie Aaron Brockovich and understand how you can sue these people, these GMO companies, to transition them out of there. Now, I realize nobody wants to lose their job, but I know most people want health rights as opposed to health being a privilege. And if these guys own the government in the country that they're from, and they make those pesticides illegal in that country, and I'm talking about atrazine et al., stuff like that, and you can find that here, that's an unacceptable society. And you guys have almost fallen asleep on them taking advantage of you. And I'm here to rudely awaken you from your dogmatic slumbers, because there's children involved. Now, show of hands here. Who knows somebody that has cancer? Okay, so there's a bunch of people here. See, this thing like atrazine directly causes cancer. It's a carcinogenic. That's why they made it illegal in their own country of origin. So to detoxify the soil and the waters here on the west side would allow someone to transition like Dr. Shiva with her like microorganisms. They've been using non-fertilizer based or non-nitrate based fertilizers for years in India, and it's worked fantastic. I mean, I saw a documentary on Dr. Shiva like 11 years ago. I believe she came here to talk to you people here about sustainable farming as well, and to transition the GMOs out. So that's one way to get rid of the GMOs. Test the water, show them what they got, and sue them, man. Sue them. And make a bunch of money from them, because everybody's into money. That's the only thing I've never been into. That's why I've had 9 failed businesses. I had to look back. And one of them's a $1 billion industry that every single buddy here knows.
Thank you. Okay, this will be our last question before your closing statements. We'll start with Mr. Carvalho. How would you propose we solve the homeless problem on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Obviously, there is a homeless problem on Kauai. I did mention earlier that it's our responsibility to provide as much housing opportunities as we can. There's a short term and a long term. Short term was to be working with existing KO or existing organizations. We need more transitional housing. We need to work closely with our housing agency, of course, to seek resources. I did meet with several of the churches already, and so some of them are willing to open up their property to at least park your car, because a car is shelter, believe it or not. So we're trying, and so some of the churches are willing to offer that, and all the people, the families, some families are out there would be restroom facilities. So just giving a small example. But at the same time, there's other opportunities coming with our housing agency. Like I said, I would advocate at the legislative level to see what kind of modular units or I don't want to talk about tent cities because that doesn't sound safe, but how to keep the people who are truly homeless. I'm going to say this. There are people who are homeless and people who choose to be homeless. And I'm going to say that. So we need to work collectively to find solutions through all the various programs. Like I said, we did have a transitional housing on the Mayor Baptiste administration, where it was called the Kauapo, the bridge, and getting people into some kind of transitional support to get them into homes. We also looked at working closely with the state, in the state housing, because some of those units are in disrepair, and maybe we can work closely with them to look at that as well. So it's a major issue for all of us, and I think collectively we can find solutions to manage that.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, how would you propose we solve the homeless problem on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Again, generating revenue streams to pay homeless people. You know how many homeless people they got in the Seminole Nation? None. So if they can do something somewhere else in the world, my philosophy is we can do it here. There's a lot of homeless people by where I live in Kapa'a, and I've talked to them quite a bit, and you know, they come here to just get away from society. So some of them actually want to be homeless, and then they head out to Kalalau or whatever. But I think what Mayor Bernie said is also relevant. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Caviero, how would you propose we solve the homeless problem on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Go around to each and every individual city, like Eleele, Kapa'a, Lehui, Princeville, Anahola, Kealia, Moloa'a. I mean, keep going. And put a homeless shelter in each and every part of this island so that we don't have our people sleeping out on the road, getting attacked, or whatever the case may be.
Thank you. And that will conclude our formal questions. So we'll start with the 2-minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Barca, I apologize about that. I went on beyond you. My apologies. How would you propose we solve the homeless problem here on Kauai? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I see our homeless problem and our drug problem go hand in hand. And I'm not going to do what they're proposing to do in Oahu and criminalize our homeless people, because I find that disgusting and ridiculous. That's not the way to deal with a problem, is by throwing people in detention centers. I think we need healing centers for our homeless, and that goes along with our goals of creating a rehab facility. With our rehab facility, we're working on blueprints for, this would be a farming rehab facility. So it goes hand in hand with our fruit production. This is a place where our addicts their sobriety can grow with their plants, they can learn a new trait, they can heal, and we can give them an opportunity to move on to possibly food farming or just getting back on their feet. But I think it has to do with, you know, creating these healing centers. You know, and I applaud the mayor for, you know, wanting to do one for the youth and whatnot. But like I said, I think our bigger problems are with our older folks and the generation before our youth setting a bad example. And, you know, that's our kuleana to set the new example for how our kids are supposed to be. And I think that's with healing our people and, you know, healing centers. Mahalo.
Thank you. We'll move on to the closing remarks. We'll start with Mr. Carvalho. You have 2 minutes.
In closing, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you to the organization putting it all together and having us here tonight. You know, being a leader takes vision. And got elected in 2008 and again in 2010. And in 2010, we came out with a vision for Kauai. And my hope was that people would hear our vision and choose to jump on board with whichever project. There were 38 projects I talked about. I took Kauai on a virtual tour 2020. So hence the 2020 vision. And you can get on the website and check it out. But whatever fits your style, I hope you can join us. But that was the vision. Then you surround yourself with awesome, awesome, awesome people. Sometimes you gotta just be patient and understand the need to surround yourself with good people who truly want to do the right thing for the right reasons, who have good hearts and has creativity, is willing to rise above some of the challenges that come our way and manage in a way that's going to be the best interest of the people. And that's the truth right there, folks. In order for us to continue to move forward, I look forward to joining me and completing our projects. I mean, we have the landfill issue to finish. We're going to do it. We're going to do our healing center. We're going to do every bus stop with a bus shelter. We're going to finish the Kealahele Makalai coastal path. We're going to finish that. We're going to move forward on finishing our stewardship agreements. Ka'ulu o Pa'oa is the most recent stewardship agreement with a Hawaiian organization, the Hula Maut out at Ke'e Beach. Done. We did a stewardship agreement with our Kane'uluma Heao. Done. We're going to do another stewardship agreement. We got to begin to document and bridge and connect our Hawaiian people to help them and assist them and provide them the resources. We're going to do that, folks. And of course, housing, Kolopua housing, 44 units, coming up in Princeville. Rice Camp, right over here, 60 units, of which we're going to do that. And one more time. And Lima Ola,
Thank you. Mr. Barca, your closing remarks. You have 2 minutes.
I just want to mahalo everybody for the hospitality. I never got no oranges thrown at me, so I'm happy. Anyways, you know, I'm not too good about talking about myself, but I am good at talking about the goals I have set for our island. I think we put in some things on the table that have never really been in the forefront and in our eyes, you know, on the dinner table and being talked about every day. And, you know, those 4 things are food production, cultural restoration. I feel like, you know, these guys are already working on stewardship agreements, which is something we're going to follow up on. But the difference between me and what's going on now is I'm working on these heiaus and I am restoring them personally. So this is a deep place in my heart where I personally feel the connection that we have with these places. And by opening up our heiaus, our fish ponds, it'll give us a cultural significance over any other island to start taxing our tourism in a different way and more smarter ways. I think our waterways are important to get our waterways flowing back through our island. A lot of our water is diverted, blocked, whatever, and we're feeling the effects. That's another big thing. Let me see. Drugs. We've talked a lot about it tonight. That's something that hits home for me because I've lost a lot of friends and family to drugs on this island. And I think that will deal with our problem with drugs and our homelessness. You know, I got world knowledge. I've traveled the world many times. I've been to every continent on earth many times except for Antarctica. But I bring a world aspect to our island. And it's time we start thinking global and acting local, knowing how the things around the world are going to affect us. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Lake, your closing remarks. You have 2 minutes.
I agree with thinking global and acting local. February 28th to March 17th, I had called the 193 United Nations countries. Now, I think a leader takes initiative, and a leader looks outside of the box when inside of the box is imploding and on fire. Now, you got some people pulling up chairs, roasting marshmallows on that fire, and you got other people like the great Dustin Barca, people up here, they're immolating themselves in their fire because their hearts are on their sleeves and they're passionate about these things that are happening to Kauai. And if you don't see an economic crisis looming, I mean, you ask the people at Hanamaulu Cafe how they feel, or Kojima's, or any of these places that have been closing down. Now, we need to look at this place as a business and really think out of the box. And I wouldn't personally trust the artistry of a single marshmallow to anything but my own fire. But if I can look and allow every relationship as a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself, and if I can just imprint into your minds that the GMOs are like a 1950s cigarette company who hired a doctor to say that, you know, smoking is okay for pregnant women. Did you know that in the 1950s, all of them said that? Or secondhand smoke wasn't even an issue then, and now we know secondhand smoke causes cancer. So I just want you people to imprint into your minds that these GMOs, man, they're lying to you. They are bamboozling you, man. And you got to get them out of here. And I have 3 different ways to do that. So I think at least look for them. And I know it's going to upset a lot of people that actually work there. But again, I'm talking about transitioning these people into different businesses that are really easy to start here. There's templates already existing in the world. And if there's a template in the world for a business model, I can bring it here, man. I just know. The 9 failed businesses I had, God, there were like little heartbreaks, every single one of them, man. And I wasn't motivated, money motivated. And when I realized that for 70,000 people, you can actually create a business to pay each one of them, I knew I could do it here in 1 of 3 ways.
Thank you. Ms. Caviero, your closing remarks, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I don't believe that Kauai is a business. Kauai is based upon people, people who bleed blood. So I would want to take the initiative to extend my hand to each and every one of you and let you know that you are the ones that are important. It's not us, it's you guys. And what you guys want and what you want to vote on is what's going to make a difference.
Thank you. That concludes our questions for your mayoral candidates, Mr. Bernard P. Carvalho Jr., Mr. Dustin Barca, Mr. C. Hendricks Hapa Lake, and Ms. Deborah Lynn, Ms. Debs De Silva Caviero. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming this evening. Thank you to the West Kauai Business and Professionals Association. Thank you for the Chamber of Kauai. And if you have questions for the candidates, you can stay here and